Greetings, my name is Bill Wheeler. I'm running for District 1 in the city of Everett, Washington, and today I am going to talk about an email I received because it actually talked about some interesting topics that a few of the voters in this town should be paying attention to, and it's noteworthy to elaborate on these. The message I received is that they had some general questions. I'm not going to tell you what this person said they did with the city, but as far as questions go, you mentioned that I was vague in my website, and for starters, I've looked at a few of the competitor websites who are running for the same position, and yeah, I don't see anybody elaborating or making videos or posting anything about their opinions. So I don't know what to tell you. This is 2025. Everybody has access to the internet, and I believe the mainstream media is absolutely dead, and people are going to search for other resources such as Facebook, X, and actually go to websites and look them up as opposed to trusting the mainstream media, because the Everett Herald has a history of just flat out lies. So in the email it said, I mentioned criminal justice and what do I plan to do in regarding to reducing crime in Everett, especially in our district. Well, the first step is that you make law enforcement actually do law enforcement, not selective law enforcement, but actually enforce the laws that we already have on the books. I wrote on here, public safety and security, support law enforcement officials in ensuring adequate sources to maintain safe community and implement effective crime prevention strategies. Okay, that's a little vague. How do you solve it? Well, you can support law enforcement all day long, but there are ways that you can support it further. So yeah, I get a point. I'll elaborate on this a little bit. I'll just go through the list of items I have. Issues, environmental stewardship, implementing sustainable practices, policies protecting our natural resources, reduce pollution, and preserve our environment for future generations. That's pretty cut and dry. If you look at our district, we have a lot of huge environmentally impacted areas, such as the port, we have the sloughs, we have substantial amount of parks and recreational areas. One of the biggest issues I have is that Evergreen Way used to be known for its evergreens. Everett, Washington used to be known for having a luscious green landscape. That is not the case anymore. They have stripped the land and they have not replaced our natural resources, and they still want to tear them down and build more. So that's not responsible. What responsible growth to me is if you have a community where we are tapped out on resources, there's nothing wrong with saying that our land is tapped out and we have no more left to give you. Our water is at max capacity. Our sewer is at max capacity. It is a shame that we got to a point where we are relying on homeowners to fit the bill to build a larger infrastructure just to further condense and crowd our towns. It's not the type of community that people here want. So I am not for big, huge, towering skyscrapers in condensed populations. Everett is a small port town. It needs to stay a port town. I do not believe in development and think historical Everett should be preserved. There is plenty of area where they can expand upon and take care of the infrastructure we have, but until you take care of the infrastructure we have, the discussion as far as the city paying for an extension of it should not be on the burden of taxpayers. If a developer comes in and they want to do it the old-fashioned way, buy some land and pay extra money to expand the infrastructure to meet the needs of the community, and they do congestion surveys and they work out the road so they don't impact the community, then proceed. It's your property. You want to pay for it, go for it. But as far as responsible growth, we're not getting that. We're getting huge coffin apartments, congested streets, hoping that people want to participate in community transit, and that's just not happening. It's a complete failure. People don't feel safe getting on the bus. Now, transparency and accountability. Restoring trust in our government, promoting transparency in decision-making process, providing accessible information to the public, ensuring elected officials are accountable to the community they serve. Yeah, unfortunately, I've been to a few of these meetings. I've seen the Agenda 2030, 2025, repackaged Green New Deal, and it is a dystopian nightmare, and that piggybacks on city's comprehensive plan that they're drafting up that just wants to strip homeownership rights to people. So I don't agree with it. I don't think it's necessary. We already have enough laws. We don't need the city to invade our privacy and what we do, tell us what we do with our property. Educating and workforce development, investing in quality education, vocational training, and lifelong learning opportunities to equip our residents with the skills they need for meaningful careers and attract businesses. Luckily, we have major universities in this town that provide stellar education. I would rather see money that's extra, if it permits, to go towards giving people an opportunity to further fine-tune their skills. That's where the money should be spent, not on divisive festivals or spending money on excessive amount of entertainment for people where we don't even know where the money's going to come from. Affordable housing. The issue with the housing crisis is it's hard to have affordable housing when interest rates are high, demand is high, and you restrict private development because you are trying to have a mix between city agenda, city agendas, and you're trying to mix the housing market. It just doesn't work. You're pushing a narrative that's just collapsing the market. The taxes make housing unaffordable. When $600 extra a month is going towards taxes, it's hard to sit back and say that you're an advocate for affordable housing. You can't vote for taxes and tell people you're for affordable housing. If you do that and you vote for taxes and increasing them year after year, and telling the water district you want to increase the cost and the PD you want to increase the cost, you are a liar and a hypocrite. Small business support. I don't see the support that small business should get, because as I said before, if you increase the taxes, you're increasing the rent, and it makes it extremely hard for small businesses to operate. There's also an issue of getting involved. Minimum wage is minimum wage. Everett doesn't need to go out of its way to prove a point. We should keep minimum wage what it says, put up with the fact that the state is getting involved, but by no means should Everett try to interfere and increase minimum wage. That's not going to solve the issue. It's just going to inflate the cost of things. That's why everything in Everett is more expensive, than it is if you go out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so back to the question regarding the criminal justice public safety in District 1. Now, I wrote up a letter today. I'm glad this guy wrote me because it pointed out that I have some areas of concern that I needed to brush up on, and it kind of lets me know what topics people are thinking about. And some people in this town honestly think that nothing is going on and there is no crime, or that cops are doing everything they can, or that we just need more and money solves everything. Money does not solve everything. The issue is with the accountability in policing. And the City Council has both the authority and the duty to lead that effort. Everywhere you go, you see drug use, unsafe vehicles, blatant property damage, and police vehicles just pass on by. That sends a clear message of inconsistency, and it undermines the public trust. The law must apply equally to everyone. Whether you're unhoused, a visitor, or a resident parked on a downtown curb. If police officers feel constrained by internal policies or city leadership, then the council needs to act. That's why they're there. That includes establishing performance benchmarks, holding regular public hearings on response data, and creating clear written directives for enforcement consistency. So we must support law enforcement with the resources and clarity they need, but we also need to hold them accountable to the public they serve. That balance is critical to restoring trust and safety in our district. The other issue too is addressing the city's fiscal deficit. So the individual wrote we're 12 million. It was reported at 12.6. It's probably more than 12.6. Obviously, every time Everett throws out a number, it's almost double of what they said it was. So it's probably 25 million deficit. So Everett's 12.6 million deficit is a signal that spending has outpaced responsible governance. Now, prioritizing essential services and infrastructure over non-essential or mismanaged projects. For example, the public restroom. The city used $1.25 million in federal COVID-19 relief funds to build 3 downtown restrooms. The third is still unfinished and may require another $500,000 to complete. As somebody who has experience in construction, there's no reason why any restroom should cost that much. I mean, wow. Okay. You don't have me convinced on that one. So by the time they're done, we're going to be at close to $2 million for 3 bathrooms. If you don't feel that that's an issue, then we're not even talking the same language. The Aquasox Stadium started off as 40 to 80 million concept and has now grown to $120 million proposal with limited public input and no clear financial plan. We're just going to pay for it. The municipal building renovation. It is a renovation project for the city's own offices, and it has increased from $9.4 million to $36 million. Allegedly, it's due to poor forecasting and cost overruns. So there's other things too, like the bridge going over the flats. It doesn't even look like they touched it. I mean, they cut a few pieces of metal out and painted it, but wow, talking about I would never sign off on that. I don't even know if they walk through these jobs when they're done and actually look at what the money's going to. I want to see where the taxpayer money is actually going. That's the kind of accountability I'm talking about. I'm talking about boots on the ground, walking through these job sites, talking to the foreman, and like actually seeing where the resources are being spent. I guess it's the difference between somebody with experience and somebody that doesn't. It's absolutely doable. If we can't get this done for cheaper, then we're not doing our due diligence and shopping around. Yeah, I would vote against projects that demonstrate that do not demonstrate a clear and essential need or a responsible fiscal plan. So I'm not a rubber stamper. I'm not going to be. No way would I ever sign off on bathrooms. I would not be okay with the new stadium at this point if things financially turn around. I know enough about it to know that they could have easily modified the existing Aquasox stadium cheaper, and if they say they couldn't, then they needed to find a different company that would. My thoughts on the 2044 comprehensive plan. So I don't even know where to begin with this because it's 120 something pages. I have concerns because in a nutshell, the Everett Comprehensive Plan is trying to piggyback on laws that are already in existence for no reason. It does try to meddle in the lives of property owners. And that's the problem that I have, is if you have your property, it is your property, not the city of Everett's property. And the city of Everett is adopting a stance where they think that they own your house. They think that they own your house because nobody is saying anything about them constantly raising your taxes, and in a sense they think you are nothing more than a tenant on leased land. So why am I buying this home? It's getting crazy. The first point in the dam to break was the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units, being approved. After they changed that, now come the zoning restriction changes, and after that you will have a complete buyout of homes and city blocks because they will bankrupt a majority of homeowners who will not be able to keep up with their payments. The plan is to tax you out of your homes and to make it so excruciatingly expensive that nobody can live here, but the city will be able to do carte blanche on taking your property, building huge coffin apartments, and putting their subjects in there where they will rule for eternity, because that is how these people think. It is done on the guise of sustainability. It is manipulated in a manner that is disingenuine. The use of words like equity and housing and all that stuff, it's just to give you warm fuzzies about it. So the 2044 plan in its current form shifts away from personal liberty and towards a model of centralized planning. As someone who believes in the foundation of a constitutional republic, limited government, local control, and individual rights is what I will work to. So I believe in rolling back overreaching land use, a reduced permanent complexity and bureaucracy, a push for local, not regional decision making, and I believe in defending property owners' rights across all zones. I do not believe that the city should be involved in my property for their plan. Their plan is for us to eat bugs and be happy. Their plan is for us to walk within 5-15 minutes of our coffin apartment, go to work, give them our paychecks, and go home and just die a slow death. That's their plan. It is a dystopian view. I don't know. It's weird. It's a cult. It's a death cult. And I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to get people to listen. But if this is the kind of stuff they're voting for, and they got people drafting this stuff up that seriously violates your rights as a property owner, getting involved in areas where you shouldn't be getting involved in. Yeah, I'm a firm believer what you do on your property is your business. I don't think people should have a right to get involved unless if for some reason what you're doing bleeds over and now violates my right to my freedom and enjoying my property. For example, if you have a neighbor who has trash in their yard and they're attracting pests and it becomes a rodent problem, then yes, the city should step in and tell that person to clean up their yard, and they're attracting rats. And if you have to, you make them pay for the exterminator and the cleanup. Now, why would I say that and not go with this? Well, simple. Because that person's decisions are now infringing upon my constitutional right. They are infringing upon my property. So they're taking away my liberty because of their bad decision. It's the same concept that's been going on for hundreds of years. It's a cat and mouse game. We try to get our rights back, they try to take them away, but this time we've been under a rule of individuals who are blindly signing us up for this stuff, and everybody's just kind of nodding their head and going along with it because they're busy, and we all live busy lives, and we don't have the time after work to deal with this kind of stuff. So we have to make the time and address these issues and bring them to the front and up to the light so people in the community can see them and know exactly what's going on. So that's what hopefully my candidacy is going to do for people out there who are interested in what's going on in their community. It's not I don't even know where to go with this. I mean, you know, I get it. The guy was, we're in a hardcore liberal area. The guy worked hard on this. Probably wanted to see if I was going to totally just dunk on his paper, which I'm not. Some things, okay, I mean, but, you know, why are you trying to write laws when the laws already exist? It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the plan. I don't understand why a plan needs to be in place for an already established community. How about the plan be to rejuvenate and fix up what you have? If you really cared about the environment, how about the plan to take all these empty lots that the city of Everett has, and instead of making people pay for more sewer, water, and PUD to be ran to these properties and milking homeowners dry, why don't you make your plan to turn these areas into parks or reforest them? If you want to make a plan that you think you're so green, then why don't you restore what you've taken away? Fix the roads. Start adding medians with trees. There's areas all up and down Rucker and on Broadway where you could easily add medians for shaded trees instead of just having a concrete jungle. There's code that says that homes and are supposed to be kept up a certain way. There's already code to say that businesses are supposed to have trees with appropriate drip lines. Linwood has regulation on having certain trees planted with certain drip lines on their feet in front of new buildings and whenever you establish a business. So there's ways to go about it to rejuvenate the city, but they're not in the rejuvenation, they're just into dragging it down with all their high taxes. If you lowered the taxes, watch how fast business comes back to Everett. Everett would be booming. The problem is you can't have a booming Everett when the streets are congested because you just put 1 million apartments in. So the discussion about what our population is here and what it should be and what we're actually capable of handling needs to be a serious one, because I don't see why the city of Everett is trying to mingle in developing properties and have government supported housing. The city should let the market take care of itself and have less bureaucracy and less intervention from the city. Some things the city needs to just take a step back and stay in their lane. And housing is one of those things where we need to just stay in our lane. And the market needs to decide what it's going to do. It's not our responsibility to make a place for somebody to live just because they want to live here. If there's no room, there's no room. It's not our responsibility to make room for people. If we're tapped out, we're tapped out. There's plenty of other places to go, and there's plenty of other development opportunities to pursue. So attacking homeowners and making us pay all these taxes for future developments just so you could eventually run us out and take our properties and bulldoze them over, yeah, that's not going to happen without a fight. So the plan to me is just one step further towards that. A total dystopia, and you can have all these lavish big name brands on the port and try to build your coliseums to keep people distracted. But the reality is that people are waking up to this, and they're going to want some answers and accountability, and hopefully people catch on to what's going on sooner than the later. So, I mean, pretty sure I've answered everything that there is to answer in regards to this. I don't really see how my stance is vague on where I sit when it comes to crime, when it comes to the rights of homeowners. I guess that's the problem that we run into, is when you want to start talking about a bunch of stuff that's not your business, you never really run out of stuff to talk about. But there's some stuff that's just really genuinely not your business. And what goes on somebody's property is really not your business. So, not understanding that, I'm not understanding addressing the city's fiscal deficit. Well, here's a thought. The city's fiscal deficit. Why don't you change that to, instead of saying addressing the city's deficit, how do you address the governance deficit? How do you address the people who think that it's okay to spend more than what you make? Doesn't sound very fiscally responsible to me. None of these projects do. Man, I mean, these are really simple solutions. The public restrooms, almost $2 million. Could you imagine if you had a place? There's tons of buildings in downtown Everett that could be purchased for that much money, if not a fraction, that are in disarray, that would take very little to fix up. And you just work a deal with the tenant to fix the place up and put a sign up front that says public restroom. You could even get a free restroom out of it. And you would have had an investment property that would have actually built some equity for the city. So I'm not buying this. I've seen it. I don't know. They tore something down. They put a new brick building up. Bricks are cheap. I don't know what this is insane. So I don't know. In the Aqua Sox Stadium, I mean, what are we paying almost as much as they paid to build the football stadium for the Seahawks? I mean, what are we doing here? This is wild. So, good luck with that. The problem with my thoughts on this comprehensive plan is, I would say, until you guys figure out what your deficit is and you guys have the capability of actually maintaining the infrastructure you have, anything you want to do is, I mean, what do you want to take resources to nanny people? What are you doing here? You want to tell people not to make money, don't pay taxes? This is insane to me. Are you going to force them to spend $5,000 on a commercial place to run a business when there's no money to be made because you're taxing people so much? It just doesn't make sense. So that's all I got today. I'm going to update my website to include some of this information and elaborate on things. Pretty sure they didn't want me to elaborate on things. Anything, it's just going to make people wonder anymore. I'll post a link that goes to this 2044 comprehensive plan, so people can read it and they can go through it. Like I said, it doesn't, I mean, they asked if I had any input or anything, blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is no, I have no input. I have no input because you don't care. Nobody's going to put anything in there. I'm going to dunk all over this thing. You know, I started reading it, and the first thing I started asking myself is, why is everything crossed out in red when it comes to eliminating everything that you should be able to do with your own property? It's pretty wild, but you know, it is what it is, and people are going to be the way they are. So I'll post updates. I'll post again another video tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get some more questions. I appreciate the question I got, even though I'm pretty sure it was done. I don't know if it was done disingenuously. I'm not gonna, I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking too much into this. I probably am looking too much into it and overanalyzing it. And I'm pretty sure the guy that asked me the question didn't plan on me writing a huge paper back to him on it, but I also, the question's loaded for bear, so I gave him a response. So hopefully we'll see what happens with that. Till then, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll come up with some issues if I don't get asked anything, and discuss them further tomorrow. Thank you. Vote for Bill Wheeler. Go to takebackyourtown.com and catch me on X at Dr. B. Wheeler. Thank you.